The first Golden Bachelorette season is winding down. Joan Vassos makes her choice between Chalk Chapel and Guy Gansert in the season finale next week. She opened up about why her kids are happy the season is finally ending. Joan Vassos admits she's still in love with late husband. Joan Vassos was in love with her husband John when he sadly passed away from cancer in 2021. She admitted that she's still in love with him, despite being on a national dating show. Us Weekly caught up with Joan Vassos last month during the Men Tell All taping. It took me a long time to get through the thought that I could still be in love with John and still have another person, that there's room in my heart for that, she told the outlet. Joan continued, I think when I came onto the show, I thought that I was really ready and I felt really confident and that I knew what I was doing, and I found out that was completely wrong. The show helped her realize that she wasn't ready to move on. However, she realized her heart was bigger than she thought after falling in love with one of her suitors. Her kids worried she'd embarrass them on TV. Joan Vassos promised her family that she wouldn't kiss any of her Golden Bachelorette suitors. She broke that rule on night when she locked lips with First Impression Rose winner Keith Gordon. The 61-year-old school administrator has had several steamy makeout sessions with her other suitors, but she drew the line at anything more than kissing. In a franchise first, Joan Vassos kept beds out of the fantasy suite dates. During her chat with Us Weekly last month, Joan confessed that one of her daughters keeps track of how many suitors her mom kisses. When they watch a show, one of my daughters critiques it every week and tells me how many men I kissed, Joan said. She added, she calls me in the morning, tells me how many I kissed, and how much she embarrassed me and how much I embarrassed her. So I think that they're ready to maybe have their life back to normal a little bit. All of her kids are looking forward to the season ending so they won't have to watch Joan kiss anyone else on TV. Do you blame them for being a little embarrassed? Sound off in the comments. The first season of The Golden Bachelorette has captivated audiences, offering a fresh twist on the Bachelor franchise with a mature and heartfelt exploration of love later in life. At the center of it all is Joan Vassos, a 61-year-old school administrator who is looking for a second chance at love after the heartbreaking death of her husband, John, in 2021. Throughout the season, Joan has been vulnerable, open, and genuine, showing that love knows no age. However, the journey has not been without its emotional and personal challenges, especially when it comes to Joan's family. As the season draws to a close and Joan prepares to make her final choice between Chalk Chapel and Guy Gansert in the highly anticipated finale, fans have been fascinated by her journey. But Joan's experience on national television hasn't been easy for everyone in her life. Her children, particularly her daughters, have had their own concerns about Joan's time on the show, especially when it comes to how her actions might impact their family dynamic. In a candid interview, Joan admitted that her children were initially worried about how the public nature of the Golden Bachelorette would affect their family. They worried about the potential embarrassment that might come from watching their mother, who had just recently lost her husband, navigating romantic connections on national television. Joan herself was uncertain about how her involvement in the show would affect her family, especially when it came to intimate moments with her suitors. Despite her initial reservations, Joan embraced the opportunity to put herself back out there, even though it meant facing some awkward and sometimes humorous moments with her kids. But the heart of Joan's journey on the show has always been her desire for healing and finding love again, something that was far from easy after her beloved husband's passing. Joan Vassos' love story with her late husband John was one of the key emotional pillars of the Golden Bachelorette season. The couple has shared a deep bond, with Joan openly stating that she was still in love with him, even 2 years after his tragic passing. John, a kind and loving man, was Joan's partner in every sense of the word. His death from cancer left Joan heartbroken and unsure about whether she could ever truly love again. During a recent interview with Us Weekly, Joan reflected on the profound loss she experienced. It took me a long time to get through the thought that I could still be in love with John, and still have another person that there's room in my heart for that, Joan confessed. It was clear that Joan's love for John hadn't waned with time, and the prospect of finding another partner was both daunting and thrilling for her. Joan admitted that she came into the Golden Bachelorette feeling confident and ready for the next chapter of her life. "I thought that I was really ready, and I felt really confident, and that I knew what I was doing," she said. "I found out that was completely wrong." The experience of dating on national television made Joan realize that she was still carrying the weight of her grief and wasn't fully prepared to open her heart again in the way she initially thought she was. However, as the weeks passed, something changed. Joan found herself developing real emotional connections with some of her suitors, particularly one man, and for the first time since her husband's death, she began to allow herself to feel something more than just the memory of her past love. Joan's journey on the Golden Bachelorette turned into a journey of self-discovery, vulnerability, and the realization that her heart was bigger than she thought. As she fell for one of her suitors, Joan came to understand that there was still space in her life and heart for new love, one that didn't erase the love she had for John, but rather added to it. "I realized my heart is bigger than I thought," she shared, expressing gratitude for the experience and the relationship she formed, even if things didn't play out exactly as she imagined. As the Golden Bachelorette unfolded, Joan's family watched closely, especially her children, who had mixed feelings about their mom being in the public eye in such an intimate way. Joan shared that her children were initially very concerned about the idea of her dating again and the potential embarrassment they might face as they watched their mother go through the process of falling in love on national television. "My kids were really worried about what people might think, especially watching me kiss people," Joan confessed. "They were concerned about how it might affect them, and I get it. It's a lot to process." While Joan was open to the experience, her kids were unsure about how the public nature of her journey would affect their family's privacy and reputation. One of Joan's daughters was particularly vocal about her discomfort with the situation, keeping track of every kiss Joan shared with her suitors. In a lighthearted moment during her interview with Us Weekly, Joan shared that one of her daughters would critique the show after every episode, calling her mom to recount how many men she kissed during that week's episode. "When they watch the show, one of my daughters critiques it every week and tells me how many men I kissed," Joan laughed. "She calls me in the morning, tells me how many I kissed, and how much she embarrassed me and how much I embarrassed her." The playful yet awkward nature of these exchanges clearly added a layer of complexity to Joan's time on the show. While she was exploring new relationships and finding healing, her kids were dealing with their own set of emotions regarding the experience. Joan acknowledged that her family had their own set of expectations when it came to how she would behave on the Golden Bachelorette. Early on in the show, Joan had promised her children that she wouldn't engage in any intimate behavior that might be too scandalous. She drew a firm line when it came to any activities beyond kissing. "I promised my family I wouldn't kiss anyone," she said with a smile. But of course, that rule was quickly broken when Joan shared a kiss with First Impression Rose winner Keith Gordon. From that moment on, the kissing didn't stop, with Joan getting closer to her suitors and navigating her feelings in front of the cameras. Despite the steamy moments on screen, Joan remained firm in her belief that she wasn't ready to cross any further boundaries, especially when it came to the fantasy suite dates. "I kept the beds out of the fantasy suite dates," she revealed, maintaining a level of decorum and personal boundaries that reflected her commitment to doing things on her own terms. For Joan, the challenge of being on the Golden Bachelorette wasn't just about finding love. It was about finding a balance between her personal life, her family's feelings, and her desire to explore a new chapter in her own life. The experience was difficult not just for Joan, but for her family, who had to come to terms with seeing their mother in romantic situations on television.